Going to be making up a quick but healthy soup today. Going to be making carrot and coriander soup. Now just quickly run you through the ingredients. I've got a bunch of carrots there. Peel those and slice them. You don't have to peel them, but I'm going to peel mine and slice them up. Then we've got an onion, like the base of the soup. You can either use a red one or a sort of white onion, you know, the yellow onion. So I'm going to use the red onion, just one of those you want to use. Then we've got some potatoes. I've got sort of 4 little potatoes, so one big one or a couple of medium, and a bunch of coriander. So we're going to peel the leaves off and put those in the soup at the end. I've also got some ground coriander, so we're going to use 1 teaspoon of that. I'm going to use a bit of olive oil for frying up the onions, or you could use vegetable oil. And then finally, we've got some stock. Now if you want to keep it completely vegetarian, just use vegetable stock. Otherwise, I'm actually going to be using chicken stock. I've got about 2 pints of stock, which is roughly about 1.2 litres. So there's all the ingredients. Let's sort of get it all chopped up, prepared, and get on with the cooking. So we're going to get on with this soup. Now I've got a pan there. Now the pan I've got is actually slightly bigger than you need, but it's useful for when you're blending it up later if you've got one of those hand blenders. So we're going to get on with the cooking. I've got all the ingredients laid out. I've got my onions, potatoes, carrots, and I've got my stock there. Let's start off a little bit of, I'm going to use olive oil. Don't go overboard, just put, you know, a little bit just to fry up the onions and give it a bit of flavour. Now I'm just going to put the heat on. I'm going to do it on a sort of medium heat, maybe slightly lower than that, because all we want to do is just slightly soften up the onions. I want to cook those for about 5 minutes. I'm just going to grab the onions, put those in there really. Just sort of sliced up, fairly, you know, not too fine, but sort of roughly sliced up. And I'm going to put a lid on those. Let's say, don't want them to sort of burn them, just want to soften them up, give them a stir now and again, and cook them for about 5 minutes, I would say. And then we'll start adding the rest of the ingredients. So let's put a lid on there. Now I've been cooking my onions for about 5 minutes. Remember, you're not trying to burn them, so if in doubt, turn the heat down a little bit, because you're just really trying to soften them. Remember to give them the odd stir. Now I think what we now put in is we've got a teaspoon, a small teaspoon of ground coriander. And again, give those a quick stir around. And then I'm going to pop in the potatoes, you know, cut them into sort of small cubes, because they're really just going to thicken up this soup. And then we can also put in the carrots. Give it all a stir around, give it a good stir, and then after that we're going to put in the stock. Yeah, I'm just going to hold that, give that a good stir to get all those flavours mixed around. Oh, dropped a couple there. Yeah, getting a bit silly, won't have anything left. Right. That's it, just give that all a nice stir around, and then what we're going to do is put in the stock. Alright, so I'm just going to pour in the stock. Say 1.2 litres roughly is a couple of pints. Pour that in. Make sure you've got all the sort of bits at the bottom, because look, there's a bit of the stock there. Now I actually use stock cubes today, so I actually use 2 of those. You know, I think it gives it the right amount of flavour. Let's put a lid on there and just kind of put it on a simmer, and you want to cook it until the sort of carrots have softened down and the potatoes are starting to break up. I'd say about 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at the most. So let's put a lid on there and just sort of, you know, get it simmering away. Now mine are bubbling away, and we've been cooking. I've actually been cooking for about half an hour, so I want to make sure that it's all really nice and tender, nice and soft. Let me just try one of these carrots just to make sure. Let me try that. Nice and soft. Nice. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to switch it off the heat and just let it cool down for a little bit, and then I'm actually going to use my little sort of hand blender. I'm going to blend it up nice and smooth. Now if you haven't got a hand blender but you've got, you know, a big sort of blender or whatever, let it cool down and again pour it in, blend it up, get it really nice and smooth, and then put it back in the pot. So I'm going to let it cool down, and then we'll come back and blend it in sort of you know, 5 or 10 minutes. So I've left my soup to cool down really for about 5 minutes. Should probably leave it for like 10 minutes because where we're going to blend it up, especially with the sort of hand blenders and that, you want to make sure it's not too hot. Now before I start blending it, I've actually separated the stalks of the coriander with the actual leaves. Now all those leaves, I'm just going to sprinkle those in and we're going to sort of blend this up with the whole mixture. I mean obviously you might want to use some of the stalks, you know, when you're actually cooking it from an early stage, but I haven't today, and you know I'm just going to keep it nice and simple. So we've got all the leaves in there, so now we're just going to blend it up. Now obviously be careful because it is hot and you don't want the sort of splashes on you. So we're just going to get my hand blender, hopefully we're switched on. We'll just try and blend it up and get a nice, smooth, mixed up sort of paste. So I've just been blending that for a couple of minutes. I think we've got it really nice and smooth. Look at the colour on that. Looks like a carrot and coriander soup now. So we've got the soup all blended up. I just want to show you what it's like, the sort of consistency really. I mean I think that's quite a nice sort of soup there. I mean obviously if you want your soup to be a little bit thicker, you could add a little bit less water or possibly a little bit more potato, but don't put too much in. So we've got the soup all pretty much done. Now it's a good idea to actually taste it to see how it is, because we haven't actually put any seasoning, any sort of salt or pepper into this soup. So let's give it a quick taste so you know what it tastes like before we season it. So I'm just going to try a little bit, see how it is. Let me try that. It's a nice soup, but it's a little bit on the sweet side at the moment, and I think that's where adding that little bit of salt is going to kind of bring it alive. So let's put a little bit of salt seasoning in there. I mean obviously, you know, do that to taste, and if in doubt put a little bit less and try it, mix it around and then try a little bit more, because you don't want to sort of put too much salt and make it really salty, but you do need the right amount of seasoning, otherwise it just, you know, it doesn't quite bring it all the flavours out. So let me just try that again. Right, we'll just try that again quickly, see how it is. Definitely an improvement. Just going to put a little bit more in, stir that up, and we've got a nice soup there. I'm just going to put it on to a simmer just for, you know, like 1 minute or so, just to bring it up to temperature, and then I'm going to serve it up. Just brought it up to a light little simmer, and that's now ready to serve up. Beautiful. Now I'm actually going to serve it up with my ladle. Try not to make too much mess. I don't think presentation is always my strong point, but at least the sort of dishes I make, hopefully you find they taste good. I'm actually going to put, I think, 3 ladles in there. Look at that. Nice big bowl this. And grab a little bit of that sort of coriander leaves and just sprinkle them on top really. I mean, I really like coriander and I'm sure a lot of others do. Going to serve it up a little bit of this bread here. So I've got my soup all ready to go. I'm just going to try a little bit without the coriander sort of leaves, because I want to see how the actual soup tastes. Let me try that. Nice. You can taste the coriander and the carrots and the sort of, you know, you've got the sweetness coming through from the onions as well. I think what's important with this dish is to make sure you add a little bit of salt just to get the right balance of seasoning, because I think, you know, the salt kind of really enhances the flavours. Now also, I personally like a little bit of white pepper in my one, but you know, it's up to you whether you do, but just a little sprinkle, I think looks really nice. And I've got this beautiful bread here. I mean, this one I've got here is actually walnut bread, but any nice bread, get a nice bread, but don't eat too much of the bread, otherwise it starts to become not so healthy again. But look at that. Let me try that. Have a look. Oh, lovely. That is really nice. Get yourself some nice bread. I think you'll really enjoy this. It's not very expensive to make. Nice and healthy. Doesn't take long to cook. And it's just beautiful. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.